Hey, hi everyone. Welcome to your show, Coffee with Experts. This is your host, Ranmay here, and today we have Kristina, who is the Director of Operations at Digitally Savvy with us. Hey, Kristina.
Hi, Ranmay.
Hey, Kristina. How is it going?
Going good. Going good. It's like I mentioned, the end of the week, so I'm feeling good. Looking forward to the weekend.
Getting up for the weekend. Perfect. Kristina, before we move any forward, let's get to know the human behind the mic. Talk us through your journey and how did you end up in the digital marketing space, SEO space for that matter, and what Digitally Savvy is all about. What is your core competency as an agency? And we'll take it forward from there on.
The story I wouldn't say it's the most exciting one. It's pretty basic, I would say. I started at digital marketing as just a content creator at first. I used to work in a fintech space, writing articles about Forex, foreign exchange, things like that, like brokerages. And then I moved to Canada, and then that's when I started freelancing a little bit on the content side, just creating some content for blockchain as well. So a lot regarding like fintech and all the financial markets. That was interesting. But then I was looking for a job and I got introduced to the person that happened to be my mentor and my teacher going forward. And one of the best bosses I've ever had. So Vlad Rascano, he's the one who noticed me on Upwork. I used to freelance on Upwork. And then he just started running his SEO agency in Toronto, Canada,
Mhm.
digitally savvy. And I was his first hire with almost no SEO background. I just knew how to create good content from the user perspectives. And then he introduced me to all the concept SEO wise, link building. And I started basically from scratch as an SEO specialist, took on some client at first, worked a lot on fundamentals at first. And then we slowly grew into a bigger agency, onboarded some more people, and then we have an SEO department. Then slowly I progressed into an SEO lead, the manager, and then now I made it to running the day-to-day operations digitally savvy, which is I'm pretty happy about because we have here a pretty tight knit team, very lean team. And unfortunately, the bot is no longer with the agency, but he's still very much helping at the back end, sometimes giving us some referrals because he has a lot of knowledge also in the industry. It's been, I would say, a natural progression with SEO. And it's definitely, I think, natural progression also in a way that I've started in a content space and then progressed into SEO because this is what I'm seeing more and more happening. A lot of people that are working in the content space, they eventually are interested in how the content is then ranked and perceived by people and also the search engines. So it was the case in my case as well.
Perfect. A brilliant story. Being a content person at heart, you started with content, right? And in our industry, like they say, content remains the king, but the landscape constantly keeps evolving. A couple of around 1.5 years ago, Chat GPT hit us, and content space was taken up. It was hit by the storm, right? In this evolving, ever evolving landscape, what are your top three tips for creating content that not only ranks well, because the businesses would obviously want to have the phones ringing, but also resonates with the target audience. So, where do you find that balance?
I think lately at Digital Cyber, what we've been doing is we're moving away specifically from keyword focus towards a more of a topic or entity focus. So we're switching away from targeting the crawlers, but crawlers and producing the content for the users. Because at the very first, when I started going into SEO, I know there was a lot of techniques where you could just use a couple great keywords throughout the content. It worked well before. Right now, unfortunately, that does not work as well. And I would say, even fortunately, it doesn't work as well because then it's a content not for a person, it's a content for a web crawler, and this is something that
Yeah.
we want to stay away from because then at the end of the day it's not sustainable or evergreen. I would say one of the first things that we keep with our content is making sure that it's at first user facing and user friendly versus web pro friendly. So entities is something that we've started looking into maybe a year ago or so.
Hmm.
And we do use keywords as our kind of main navigators when we create content, but at the same time, we approach it from a way of entity or like topic clustering to make sure that it is more a holistic approach towards creating content versus just putting out content that is written for
The
what
search engine algorithms, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's probably the biggest shift that we've made lately
Hmm.
because and I think it's very useful because it's also speaking to the audience that we work with. And that's actually, I would say, the second part of it is whenever we approach content, it's not only I think it starts at the very beginning with the topic that you want to cover and
Hmm.
considering the nature of the clients that we'll work with, right? We work with home services clients or, for example, some construction task clients. We put a lot of emphasis into studying the pain points, the problems of our clients' clientele to
Hmm.
be able to speak their language. For example, the content team we have at Digitally Savvy, extremely talented. They know so much about HVAC, plumbing, all the
Hmm.
technical concepts about
Hmm.
construction task businesses, different features and everything. I think one of the things that I would keep in mind whenever creating great content is to make sure that whatever you are putting out is useful, not just creating content for the sake of creating content and getting the rankings, but actually being useful for people because that's the basis for the content then being reshared, being useful, being linked to, which is naturally what we want, right? Like the content that is then distributed across the social media and internet like that. So that would be the second one. Um, and the third one is, I would say, using proper using proper links inside,
Hmm.
whether it's the external links or internal links. Obviously, we want to be using the links that are authoritative, making sure not to use any like spammy external links in there.
Right.
And also, whenever we approach the linking within our content, we try to make it useful. So, for example, if it's a content on a client's website and we want to add some value, we would add some additional course that they can study later on. Or if it's an internal link, we would then link to a different internal page within the website that would naturally push them towards, let's say, a next sales cycle, maybe convert on some more transactional page versus informational. So yeah, all these things, there's obviously so many things to think about, but I would say these are the first three things that I would think about creating content.
Absolutely. Very well said. I loved your point wherein you mentioned about you should not only focus on what Google is looking at. You should not write content for just the search algorithms there. Because even if you end up ranking well, the content has to relate to the audience who are making that decision making to buy your product or service, right? So if that does not get triggered, then even if you're ranking, it's not going to make a lot of sense. So you have to find the balance to also rank, but at the same time ensure that the content is relevant to your audience and they're relating to that content and not only be
Yeah.
so much focused just writing content for the search algos there. So I love that point. Very valid one there, Christina. And then you have been there in this industry for quite some time now and would have witnessed significant changes in the recent past, especially. So how have these transformations, Christina, impacted your approach to SEO and overall marketing strategies per se?
Right. I think again, in line with what I've said before in a previous question that you had, I think Google is becoming more targeted towards user satisfaction, user experience, user search intent versus work. And Google is becoming smarter. So we are
Yeah.
trying, I think before it was easier to I wouldn't say outsmart Google, but it's easier to use some techniques that would bring really quick results, but then they're not sustainable. So I would say it's been challenging, but at the same time, I think this is great that it's happening, that whatever marketing techniques that we're using right now, marketing strategies, they are harder to implement. They require a lot of research and knowledge and actual manual work, but then they're more sustainable because then you put a lot of effort into actually thinking the same about content, right? Or about user experience, how the user is, what is his experience on your website, how fast is your website and things like that. So before, I would say it definitely didn't matter as much, but the big shift that everybody's been saying is to satisfy user always. And this is
Mhm.
something that we've been trying to achieve with either it be link building, content creation. Obviously, we work a lot on the website as well to make sure that whenever a person lands on the website, that's also a very great experience in terms of they are not confused where to click next, they're not bouncing back again, and things like that. Yeah, user first experience is something that always in the back of our minds when we approach marketing.
Lovely, lovely. And moving on, Christina, let's talk about operations because in an agency life, we all know how demanding it can get at times. And you have graduated from starting from content to being an SEO role and then heading the operations at Digitally Savvy. So, in your current role, what are some of the most common challenges that you encounter, let's say day in, day out? And when it comes to optimizing clients' online visibility and also taking a step beyond after handling the campaigns and everything, how do you handle clients? We all know how clients can be, right? Nothing against them, but how do you handle the entire scenario there?
Yeah, I love this question, honestly, because this is what I learned along the journey is doing a good job and actually performing well on campaign for your clients is one part of the puzzle. Another biggest part of the puzzle actually being able to educate a client about what we
Right.
do and about the value that we bring because
True.
I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we face, especially with the clients that are in a home services space. More often than not, they have very basic websites or they don't have a website. So we
Right.
have
Yeah.
to start from scratch there, and they don't really understand because it's not their interest or their job to understand SEO. So whenever even starting the conversation about SEO, it's hard to sometimes it's hard to communicate to them in a proper manner because at the end of the day, what home services clients care about is not traffic, not their rankings. They care about the leads and the phone
Yeah.
ringing and the technician being busy. So we're working very hard on making sure that not only will bring relevant traffic, but the traffic is also local. Because what I learned as well, it can be a very great experience in terms of there's a lot of traffic, lots of good rankings. But if it's not local for the client, nobody's gonna book their HVAC repair or nobody's gonna go with them for furnace repair or something like that. So we always trying to educate a client on the whole funnel of how SEO then translates into website visits and then how traffic going all the way to the CRM. And we'll also actually work with the CSRs on there and make sure that whoever picking up the call knows which channel the lead is coming from. So that's by going from the very beginning until the very end. And it's been quite a learning curve for us in that scenario, but it's definitely interesting to uncover and help our clients because some of the CRM tools that they work with, for example, Service Titan, slowly and steadily adjusting to work more with some integrations, some marketing tools that we use like GA4 and Google Ads and things like that. So it's great to see that they are also developing in that way. And I see more and more clients in the home services space being open to listen about not only the amount of leads, but also about why do we need to rank, for example, organic and also GVP, and also, for example, on Google Guarantee, because putting all three together, getting that first above the fold, above the scroll pace, it's something that matters a lot for them because I would say, just ranking inorganic traffic is inorganic results is good, but then for local services, it's also very important to be able to pop up in that local pre-pack or Google Guaranteed because that's where people's eyes go first, right? So it's
Right.
definitely a lot of local based challenges, but that only with home services. But with that plan, it's a bit different as well because they're very savvy technically. They understand the value of SEO. They understand some concepts as well, very well. But then with them, I think one of the biggest challenges is to actually nail down their offering and
Hmm.
the offering in the way of how we translate it to a proper, let's say, blog post, because a lot of those construction SaaS companies that we work with, they're very technical and there are lots of details that our content specifically needs to learn. So that's like a big focus for us as well.
Absolutely. And then picking up from something which you mentioned during one of our earlier conversations, right, about backlinks. So, how crucial do you feel it is for any particular campaign? And what is your take on guest posts versus niche edits? Which one do you feel is something that one should opt for or brings in more value to the table?
Right. Backlinking is definitely one of the most important things that I feel like should go into any campaign, alongside of other things that we do, like on page and everything like that. And I I like the way, you approached it in a way that what the quality means versus quantity, because obviously you
Right.
can get a lot of quantity backlinks and they might not hold as much weight as very good
Right.
quality backlinks. So I'm definitely on lookout for very niche and industry related backlinks, because then it actually ties up back to the thing that I was talking about, the entity, because also getting the backlink from an entity related publication also signals to Google that your business is about, let's say, I don't know,
Right.
HVAC. So if we're getting HVAC backlinks, that just strengthens our case for Google. So that's
Yeah.
definitely something that we're going after. Now,
And it does impact your overall domain authority a big time.
niche edits versus guest posts. So niche edits, you mean those whenever you're just inserting
Link
a link.
insertions. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Personally, in you
Mhm.
might, you're the expert here, so you might be having a different take on it. But I feel like in my mind, they would carry. It depends. It
Yeah,
depends what kind of a backlink from which get post. And then also, I like niche edit in a way that you can inject your link in already article that already
article,
kind
yeah.
of, so that has been already seen by Google. Maybe that published article already accumulated a lot of backlinks going to that article. So if it's going to link to us, it's tiered backlinks, which is also a great strategy that we utilize.
Absolutely, absolutely. Great, Christina. And before we let you go, one final question. You have seen the industry for quite some time now and have graduated up the ladder now, and I hope you keep on growing, right? So, what is that one piece of advice you'd want to give to aspiring SEO professionals who want to stay ahead of the curve and thrive in this dynamic field that we all are in?
I would say it might sound very basic, but I would say just stay curious and keep on learning every day, because I think even professionals that are whatever 10, 20 years in the space, there's just so much more to learn, especially
Yeah,
considering the latest developments with AI. This is
right.
extremely interesting, whatever is happening. So there's definitely, Google's always, like I said, getting smarter. They're trying to please the user. So say stay curious. Maybe what I do on a daily basis, I try to read at least one or two articles on some of the publications SEO wise, just to keep the information fresh in my mind, because what I felt at some point in my career is that I just stuck to the fundamentals that I've been taught, and I just
Right.
didn't want to change, because I felt like this is what I know. This is what I know is efficient. I don't want to do anything new. But then I understood that's no longer is going to be working. So always need to learn something new and apply. Always experiment with different approaches to SEO, because this is what clients also like to see.
Lovely, lovely. Thanks for those words, Christina. And let's play a quick rapid fire. I hope you're game for it. All right. Your last Google search.
Good question.
SEO was easy for you.
Oh, that's still was good. I don't even remember. Probably something about food. I'm a big foodie.
Yeah. All right. Moving on, your celebrity crush.
That would be Henry Cavill.
Okay. What did you do with your first paycheck, Christina?
I bought some skincare. I'm also very much into skincare. Some really nice like face creams and stuff like that.
We can see that. That's there to figure out, right? Okay. Which day of the week, work-wise, you love the most from Monday to Sunday?
Friday, hands down
Yeah,
Friday. I
yeah, I've been
think
talking about Friday since we logged on to the call, right? So I
I
could have
know.
imagined that. All right. And where do we find you on Friday evenings after office or after work?
Yeah, it will be usually cooking some dinner at home and watching my favorite shows or reading a book at home. I'm a homebody, always at home.
All right. All right. Lovely, Christina. I will not, grill you anymore. Thank you so much for taking our time and doing this with us. Let's our audience want to reach out to you. How would they do that?
I'm either best approachable on LinkedIn or I am on Christina at digitallysavvy.ca. Always happy to answer anything.
All right. Lovely. Thank you so much, Christina. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you, Ranmay.